what another great session we're going to have today. You start thinking about mental health and wellness. Oops, something is being recorded. There we go. But and you start really, it's actually a thing. People always make that a stigma, and it's, my God, it is not. It is. We've all been through hell 2020 to today, and even prior to that, so much going on. So we put this amazing panel together, and I believe everyone's here. I kept trying to check mark. So what I'm going to do is just quickly introduce the 5 panelists that we have today. I'm going to be asking a whole bunch of questions in hopes to really dig down into the weeds and really get value for this group on how to recognize, support, help, resources, because there's tons of them. The problem is we just don't know it. All right, so that's what this is going to be all about. So what I'm going to do is just call out each group and then just give a 30-second elevator speech of who you are, what you do, and then we're going to get jumping right in. So the first one I have is Chow, Melinda Dorn.
Hi all, my name is Melinda Dorn. I am a woman in long-term recovery and a former chef. What that means to me is that despite being raised in an alcoholic and dysfunctional family and then perpetuating the alcoholism and dysfunction in the restaurant industry for close to 30 years, I'm able to show up today in ways I never dreamed possible. I'm a devoted sister, a businesswoman, a voter, and I happen also to be the outreach coordinator and peer supporter for Culinary, Hospitality, Outreach, and Wellness, a nonprofit based out of Denver, but available anywhere you have a Zoom link, which supports restaurant workers with their mental health recovery and wellness efforts.
Awesome. Well, thank you, thank you, thank you. Drug-free, Donna, if I missed, Creager,
yes, that would be me. Hi, everyone. Yeah, I'm Donna Creager. I'm the education manager for Drug-Free Workplace PA, and we are grant funded through the great state of Pennsylvania through their Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency, and we've really been tasked to help employers figure out how to have a drug-free workplace in 2020, what year are we?
2022.
Right. So it looks a lot different now than it did even 5 years ago. So we help them develop policies that are free of stigma around substance use disorder and recovery. And we help them implement those policies using best practice. We help them recognize what impairment in the workplace is and how to get their employees into treatment if necessary, and hopefully have them return back to work. We also do a lot of work within the community, teaching schools and other community members and churches and such just about drug and alcohol awareness. We also address mental health and talk about, I had the great privilege of working with the Gettysburg Foundation this morning on the topic of addressing mental health and substance use in the workplace. We also partner with the Department of Labor and Industry and offer about 8 webinars a month, everything from addressing mental health to impairment in the workplace and executing reasonable suspicion. We also, one last thing, I promise, guys, we offer mental health first aid, which is a wonderful national course to help individuals identify the signs and symptoms of having someone who may be experiencing a crisis or someone that may be having a mental health challenge or a substance use challenge, and we give them an action plan on how to address that. So that's it for me.
Donna, thank you so much. Unity Recovery, Ryan, is it Fean?
Yeah, Fean. So I'm Ryan Fean, the recovery friendly workplace director, also called Employment Support Services. I'm also joined by my team of Gio, Lenny, and Liv. So they're going to critique me afterwards, which is going to be a lot of fun. So what recovery friendly workplace grant is, we help individuals that are unemployed or underemployed gain full employment, helping them with potential job leads, teaching them, how to build a resume, doing mock interviews. But then we also help organizations, small businesses, nonprofits become recovery friendly, help change the culture, to help support employees within their recovery. We also have workshops and trainings for those soft skills for individuals. Unity mostly does peer support, which is free of charge for anyone within the state of Pennsylvania, which can be done through, on the phone, through video, even in person. At Unity also is, the same executive director of Unity Recovery also owns Volstead by Unity, which is a zero-proof bar, the first one in Philadelphia, and also Unity Taqueria, both of which are recovery-friendly workplaces.
Thank you, Ryan. Wellness coach, Denice Elliott-Heim.
Hi, I am Denice, and I am the Director of Coach Development with Wellness Coaches. I am also a mental health first aid certified instructor, and we have trained all of our healthcare providers in mental health first aid. And what we do is we deploy our healthcare providers throughout the country to workplaces, and they work directly with employees in their workplace. We have our healthcare providers who are registered dietitians, and they provide nutrition counseling services that are covered as part of a client's benefit. And then we also have health and wellness coaches who support an important aspect of mental health, which is lifestyle behaviors. Our coaches also educate employees on mental health, and we help them to understand those signs and symptoms. And we help them to talk to each other about mental health and try to help reduce that stigma around mental health as well.
Ooh, pardon me. Thank you, Denise. Appreciate that. And then the last one is Cooks Who Care, Maria Campbell.
Hey everybody, Maria Campbell. I'm a PRLA member and board member for the Philadelphia chapter. So this is really exciting to be a part of your meeting. And Melinda, who I know, and Gio, who I see on here, who are familiar faces. And I'm so excited. I've been meeting other chapters, and this is really great opportunity. I'm a chef by trade. I've been in the industry for over 15 years, and Cooks Who Care has newly started developing our own community cookbook. And the purpose of utilizing our community is to bridge awareness to mental health issues. We have contributors from chefs, bartenders, wellness experts who are putting together how-to videos to show how to do what you're doing, but in an entertaining aspect. But we're also introducing this idea to customers, because that's where the disconnect and the bridge that needs to be built is they don't understand, and they don't have the sensitivity that we do being in the industry for what it takes to do what we do. And so we're doing it in a way that brings to light the heaviness of this issue and all of the experiences that are being shared today, and putting a lightness to it where we can actually connect to solutions. The purpose of the book, 100% of the proceeds are to generate a grant fund. For now, it will benefit people in Philadelphia, surrounding areas, Delaware County, and Southern Jersey. And the mini grants will be to pay forward mental health services and wellness activities for our area. So beta testing it out, huge project. And I'm so thankful to be on this wonderful panel full of so much expertise. So thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone joining, for everyone from the Keystone chapter. My name is Brian Daly from the Central chapter, Hershey Entertainment Resorts, and it's my honor to jump right in with some questions. So we're just going to go right into Chow. Melinda, tell me a little bit about yourself and the journey and how it led you to Chow.
So like I mentioned in my intro, I was in the restaurant industry for close to 30 years, and I found myself in 2015 hitting an emotional bottom, a professional bottom. So I was working at the top of my field in a James Beard award-winning restaurant in Madison, Wisconsin. I was drinking nightly. I was contemplating taking my life. I wasn't sure that I live any other kind of life than what I was living. I didn't know how to do anything else. I don't know how many times I've heard that from folks, talking about transitioning out of the industry. I can't do anything else. This is all I've ever done. I mean, I was in a pretty hopeless state. And I went to my boss, the chef, and I said, I don't know how long I can do this. I've tried everything. I'm taking antidepressants. I'm taking anti-anxiety meds. They don't seem to be working. I didn't know at the time they weren't working because I was still drinking depressants like alcohol and copious amounts of anxiety-inducing elixirs like stimulants and caffeine and energy drinks. Who knew? Nobody talked about it. So I didn't know I was shooting myself in the foot there. But I went to my chef and I said, I don't know if I could do this any longer. And he didn't have the support that I could have used. Instead, he just offered me some time off. And that felt like being exiled. I don't know if anybody else here on the screen happens to be a work addict, which is a real diagnosis, folks. In case you don't know that, there are measurable ways to assess it. I felt like I was being, I couldn't take, why don't you take some time off? That was not the kind of support I needed. What I needed at the time was him to say, I care about you, Mel, and I'm not qualified to help you. Let's get you connected to something in the community. At the time, I didn't know. Nobody was ever talking about this stuff in the workplace. There was such a stigma around it. I didn't know some of my coworkers were probably getting mental health therapy and stuff like that. I didn't know that there were organizations in Madison that could have helped me. So that's why Chow exists now, to help folks who needed us the last 30 years and didn't have us. We are, as Maria mentioned, a bridge between clinical services and maybe more of the non-professional mutual aid groups like AA or some of the NAMI support groups that you might have in your community. We're culturally specific for folks who work in the restaurant industry, because I don't know if anyone else has ever had this experience, but going into a meeting, explaining that you worked 80 hours last week, talking about the conditions at work and people staring at you like you're nuts. Well, we're not going to stare at you like you're nuts. We get it. We do it too. And so there's the barrier of like the shock is removed. And so it allows us to help each other as peers, talk about where it hurts, what helps, and how nobody is alone in this. If they feel like they are, we hold them till they realize they're not alone.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. This question is for Drug-Free Workplace. Donna, what are some practical ways to handle workplace stress?
Wow, that's the $10 million question, isn't it? Well, stress really is, if you don't already know, it's really our body's response. It's a mechanism to protect ourselves, right? And so in today's world, we don't necessarily have to fight off a saber-toothed tiger anymore. We actually have to work through our problems with constructive and healthy solutions. Although now I say our saber-toothed tiger is a cyber-toothed tiger. See what I did there? The cyber. Okay. So I promise I won't be that corny all day. But really, there's really no way around managing your stress without helping yourself. And I'm going to use a word, and I apologize. My dog broke out of his kennel because I only latched the top part. So 2 spots and get down. So they said, get a dog. It'll help ease your stress. Well, the therapy, I apologize. I'll keep going. So one of the things that we really talk about in addressing mental health with workplaces is to understand that stressors are going to look different for each person. Not everybody responds to stress in the same way. And there are some things that we can practically do, like breathe properly. I know it sounds easy, but about 90% of us do not know how to breathe properly on a regular basis. And that means breathing deeply from the diaphragm and exhaling. That is probably the easiest way to tone up our vagus nerve, which is a whole other conversation, and get us out of that fight or flight or that sympathetic nervous system. And it helps our body tell us that we are safe, and it can help us complete that stress cycle and get us into the parasympathetic nervous system, which is our kind of rest and digest mode. That's the simplest. The other is, now my experience in the restaurant business is I was a server at Chili's at Boston Copley Plaza. So I don't know if anybody's ever been there. Lots of tourists. It's very stressful. With Chili's, you have to take a ridiculous test for the alcohol portion. But anyway, one of the things that our manager always talked about was if you're taking a break, take it in a manner that is going to be healthy for you. So what does that mean? Should we go out and have a cigarette? That's probably going to exacerbate the anxiety, even though it does make you feel good in the temporary, but it's not dealing with the situation. The reality in restaurant business is that we can't control all of the stressors. So we have to learn how to control the response to those stressors. So maybe taking a quick walk around the block, walking briskly, doing some real mindful exercises through stretching or yoga. I always sound like a hippie when I say this, but there's really no way around it. Also eating the right foods, making sure our blood sugar isn't dropping. When our blood sugar drops, that throws us into adrenaline mode, which makes our anxiety worse and the fight or flight. So there's a lot more, but we don't have much time. So I hope that gets some people started.
Yeah, and you know what's funny, Donna? We actually, and this is for everyone, we had a Milton Hershey School student come to our offices yesterday and did a full presentation about how to hire, motivate, train, and retain the younger generation. And the one thing she said, and I'm paraphrasing, we need to find a calm zone in our operations for the Generation Z. How many people here on this Zoom don't have a break room and their staff eats their lunch or dinner or 4-hour-old chicken finger on a break room or on a storeroom shelf or surrounded by other people? We're guilty. So there's no place to check out and unwind. So that was funny that you brought that up, because she brought that up and said, dear Lord, there's no place to check out even for a second. So just wanted to point that out.
Real quickly, to back that up, that's going to be a challenge for restaurants. And it's going to be a challenge. And so sometimes we really do have to be creative and be out of the box thinkers and think of 2022, not 1994 when I was at Chili's. So the other thing real quickly, and I'm a big believer in this, is another stat: 75% of us are chronically dehydrated. So what that means is that we experience brain fog, fatigue. We're going to experience hunger. So we may eat more, but not satisfy our thirst. And then we tend to eat the wrong foods. So it's just this never ending cycle. So when we talk about self-care, it's not a buzzword and it's not a trend. It is absolutely necessary because of that phrase, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Good point. Thank you so much. Thank you, Donna. Unity recovery, Ryan, what do you think or feel is keeping folks from just reaching out and seeking help?
I think most of it is stigma and that fear, that shame that we tend to put on ourselves for asking for help. I think it's, what we try to do at Unity is kind of, smash that stigma, realizing that, there's no shame in asking for help. And, even within the workplace itself, like, we encourage our staff to ask questions, ask for help, ask for support, tell us what type of support that they need so that, they can do their job the best. I can speak, only for myself, and I, am a person in recovery, and, I did not want to ask for help. Even when help was offered to me, I still didn't want to take it because, to me, help was help and it was a sign of weakness. But really, it took a shift in thinking to finally understand that, asking for help isn't a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength. Asking for help is saying, I do not know something, but I want to change that and I want to learn. So, within staff and within a workplace, having conversations about that and showing that asking for help is not a sign of weakness. There is, there shouldn't be stigma around, seeking any type of help, even if it's just from a friend, a peer, or someone who's more licensed. There's nothing wrong with learning and trying to be the best person that you can be.
Excellent. And you are right. The stigma is real. We're tough and badass, and you don't want to appear weak and ridicule. We've all seen the bullies out there too. So it's interesting. But thank you for that, Ryan. Wellness Coaches USA, Denice. So, and this is a loaded question, but how has the pandemic impacted workers over overall mental health?
Yeah, you're right. It is a loaded question, but I'll try to do my best. The pandemic actually made things so much worse. We already were in a really tough spot before the pandemic, but it just made things so much worse. In fact, some of the research that we were looking at, we had some clients ask us to create some presentations for them, and just on health statistics, we recognized that we were seeing increased stress and worry and mental health issues. And then we were looking at lifestyle factors, and people were drinking more. There was more substance use. People were gaining weight. People were fear of returning back to work. People who did return back to work didn't want to be at work. There were folks who just that increase with burnout were actually sending people to the ER. People who were experiencing the burnout were also suffering from other consequences as far as health issues. I'm talking heart attacks, strokes. So yes, when you say a loaded question, it is a loaded question.
No,
and
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
No.
I was also going to say, then you look at other aspects of it too, just as far as, you think about, it's kind of tough to turn yourself around when you're feeling those aspects and not seeing the pandemic kind of shift and turn around for us, right? It's hard, like that motivation of, especially in your industry, right? When are doors going to open? Okay, we're going to open, but things are going to change. And then think about your workers and how does that impact them? And then, gosh, I did some research on how it impacted your industry. And that took me down a whole nother rabbit hole that I'm sure we'll discuss in other questions.
And that's a big rabbit hole, by the way. Think about this. 2020 to now, we have COVID, we have the variants, we have it's going away, it's coming back, hospitals this, hospitals that. You have you got war, finances. I don't know, have you looked at your 401k lately? It is awful. Yeah, delete your app. You got all this, and then I'm a runner, right? So I like to run every morning, and at 7 a.m. on trash day when I'm running, I can see recycle bins overflowing with beer bottles and wine bottles. And I've never seen it before. And they're hiding it with pizza boxes. So you think about overall health collapse. And now people forgot how to be nice. So I fired about 10 guests last summer, like just leave. So yeah, I think the pandemic really impacted every facet of every industry out there. It is an absolute mess. And yeah, I don't even know what my phone's ringing, but I don't know how to mute it. So there you go. So all right, well, thank you for that. That's a big rabbit hole, Denice. Thank you so much. Cooks Who Care, Maria. What are mental health challenges that are unique to the F&B industry?
Well, mental health as a whole, people who are suffering this, it's 1 in 5, but in our industry, it's 1 in 4. So we have a higher rate of statistics for these issues happening, and a lot of it is cultural. The dynamic that we have in order for people to work and be successful in our business took a formula that did not consider life as part of our commitment to our careers. And when we were absent from these lifestyle choices, it really creates opportunities for us in the culture. The nightlife culture also perpetuates it. When you're done with work, how do you hang out with people? Well, even though you're tired and exhausted and dehydrated, as someone mentioned earlier, then I'm going to go out because that's what it takes to go out with your friends. And then saying no is not as easy too, because it's the why, well, I don't understand what. It's repeated, constant conversation. It just makes it hard just to be proud and committed to your own strategies when you know you have to change behaviors. It's not easy for us to do that. I would consider the food industry the laggards of innovation when it comes to cultural commitments to our teams and how we run and operate. We're not ahead of the curve when people go, you know what, we should pay attention to the food and beverage industry. They're really doing some things out there for their teams. It's not usually what you hear. We're playing catch up. And I think that the pandemic, as much as you've mentioned, gosh, we've all been through this extreme collective trauma in completely different ways. I want to acknowledge that. We have an opportunity during this disruption to recreate, be innovative, be ahead of the times. I've seen people change hours of their operation. I've seen people let people have 2 days off in a row and plan ahead so that they could do that, right? Like these aren't things that require much. And when I talk to operators, say, hey, how was that on your profit line? Like, oh my God, I was so worried about it. I wasn't going to make money if I closed an extra day. And then they realize, actually, I don't need extra people and I can use the team I have and I'm only going to stay open, 5 instead of 7. I think we have a chance to reinvent. The customers are going to be the customers. And I have seen people get really upset about that. But I love what you said, Ryan, because like getting behind your team and supporting them and saying, you know what, like middle child hangs up signs and say, I'm going to stick by my team. Having that culture as a new culture, I think is going to change a lot of things. Thank you.
Yeah, it's funny. I posted a sign last summer. The patio's closed because it's closed. Don't ask. It's like, I have no one to wait on tables. Don't even ask. It's closed. So, all right. Well, that's awesome. Awesome. So I got 10 minutes left. And since there's so many people, I want to get another round of questions in because you guys are so awesome. And this is one of the most important topics of our time. So Chow, do me a favor. I want you to dive in deep for a few minutes of what Chow is, how it's helping. Is it just for Colorado? And if so, I'll move there. Is it open to all of hospitality? Give me like a two minute process. Go for it.
All right. So Chow started in 2018, shortly before Anthony Bourdain took his life. Our founder, John Hinman, discovered that people needed a place to come and talk that wasn't their workplace. We know that 60 to 80% of our service industry workers suffer with anxiety and depression, but over half of them won't talk to a coworker or a boss about it. And our thoughts are that probably it's because they've been met with unskillful responses like, oh, having a bad hair day, suck it up, Sally, rub some dirt in it, leave that stuff at the door, things like that. So we created a space where people could come and be themselves and share where it hurts and what helps. Moving on from there, we became a 501c3 so that we could expand our reach into other areas of Colorado. And we're hoping to expand into other states as well with clogs on the ground, if you will. But for right now, what we do is we offer 6 support groups per week, 1 in all Spanish, 1 for all women, and 4 that are hybrid, led in Colorado Springs, Steamboat Springs, and Denver. Anybody with Zoom access can attend. We welcome anyone at any place in the industry spectrum, from servers, chefs, bartenders, owners, people who aren't even in the industry yet, like culinary students, people who've been out of the industry for a while but still suffer the side effects, like industry vets. And then we also host a free, again, for anyone with Zoom access, mental health training. And I put the details to that in the chat. I won't reiterate that. And then finally, for workers who are in Colorado, Texas, or Michigan right now, our partners at Kesed Wellness will deliver 16 free clinical mental health sessions with anyone who needs additional support. If somebody's on the ground in Colorado, we also can get them connected to the Unite Us platform, which is national. So we can help get them connected if they're in another state as well, to resources such as rent relief, general assistance, SNAP, as well as financial planning services. Basically, it's a network of nonprofits around the country that want to help. And so we often run into ownership saying, I'm already too little jam for too much toast. I can't offer my staff anything else. And we're saying, good, don't try. Let these people that in the past 2 years who have been grant funded come in for free to your operation and help your people, because they're out there. Like me, in 2015, I was a woman dying of thirst next to a lake. There are resources in your community. I can't say enough good things about Donna's drug-free workplace website. So many resources in there to help you navigate challenges of mental health and recovery of your workers. Thanks.
Yeah, no. Melinda, thank you so much. I mean, I guarantee you not one person on this call can't say they haven't been in a bad place since 2020. So remember that when you look at your staff that have a lot less resources than those on this call. It's brutal. Yeah, it's brutal. So thank you for that. All right, Donna, drug-free workplace. What should we do if an employee or patron is experiencing a mental health challenge? How can we quickly react and give them support?
Well, I'll tell you that compassion and empathy go a long way. And understanding that people have lives and life is messy. So more than likely, there are going to be challenges, not only in the workplace, but also in their personal life. So we do need to get to know our employees, and we need to see if they're experiencing any kind of different signs, a change. And if you are concerned, approach them. And you can ask them with encouragement and ask them, I'm concerned about you. How are you doing? Or ask them, is there anything I can help you with? Take that moment. I know the restaurant business. I forgot to mention my brother-in-law owns 3 restaurants in the Boston area, and I just learning so much of what he's not just complaining and whining. I'll have to tell him that I apologize for for all the comments I've made, but we want to approach the situation with a calm peace of mind that we can, first of all, we don't have to provide advice to them, and we don't have to be a counselor, and we don't have to be a therapeutic force. We don't have to diagnose them. We don't have to catch them doing any drugs or alcohol. We need to be there as a support and as a place of safety and give them space. We need to listen non-judgmentally. Denice, I'm sure you're recognizing the algae plan. And then really give them guidance, because we aren't prepared to handle whatever challenge that they're experiencing. And give them guidance and direct them with resources. If you are large enough and have an EAP, that's a great place to start your employee assistance program, because that is confidential and that is, free at no cost the first 3 sessions. And that's just not for you, but it's also for the family that lives with you. And then encourage them and support them to either get the professional help that they may need or do some self-help that they need, and look at have those resources on hand. We have resources on our website, your local single county authority, which is designated to help guide people with all things drug and alcohol related, the mental health and intellectual disability department through your human services department has resources. Have them on hand. Crisis text lines, have that on hand. The National Suicide Prevention Line is now in many areas 988. So if someone is experiencing a suicidal crisis, you can ask them directly, are you thinking about killing yourselves? It's a very awkward question, but the more you practice it, the better prepared you'll be. And then if they are, contact 988. And if they're in immediate danger, contact 911. But also, if you have to do that, then you want to make sure that dispatcher knows that it is a mental health crisis or a substance use crisis.
Donna, thank you so much. Ryan, what sort of workplace culture changes are required to alleviate stress and promote healthier alcohol or drug alternative ways to maintain mental health?
I think the most important culture shift is understanding that, like you said earlier, that asking for help, having that culture shift of having open communication with staff, having them tell you what they need to be successful, and then helping them through that. That is just one of the simplest culture shifts is just listening, right? It's not that hard. We all have, a couple of ears, it's just easy to listen and to support staff that way. I also think, the culture shift of work hard, play hard kind of needs to change. There's no point of running the staff into the ground, and having them burn out and leave in a short amount of time. I'd rather have my staff, kind of take somewhat breaks throughout the day if they, if that, their schedule allows that, to kind of walk away from their desk. The same thing with the restaurant. They allow them to take breaks whenever there's somewhat a lull in service, but also treating people like people. That goes to our staff and to customers, but also customers need to treat staff like people, and part of that is sticking up for your staff to make sure that customers are treating them like a person, and and your staff is treating a customer also like a person.
Ryan, thank you. This reminds me quickly, a couple minutes, I'm going to go a little long, but that analogy of leave your problems at the door, that's impossible. You tell them to bring it on in, because we all have experience with them. We can help you, but yeah, that's great. Thank you. Denice, quick question for you. How can one begin to move out of burnout and shift into feeling more engaged?
Yeah, this question is really hard to answer, especially when somebody has moved into the burnout stage. Typically, what you want to do is when you're recognizing some of those signs and symptoms in a worker, a coworker, is try to get them to the help that they need then and there, and the resources that they need. Typically, when somebody is in that chronic stress level, that is that warning sign. That is really that point that is telling your body, hey, buddy, you better do something now before it's too late. Typically, when you get to that burnout level, that's that point where I think Melinda has fell into herself and has shared her story. And that's that place where we want to stop folks from getting to that point. If I can share one thing from hearing from everybody, one thing that I think is really super important for all of us is, one, I have recognized myself that when an emergency or a friend or a coworker needs help, we need to have those resources already at our fingertips. And the best thing that we can do is today, as soon as we're done with this call, is find those resources and have them available right away. Whether you get them on your phone, you get them on your laptop, you have them in paper form, whatever it needs to be. And the other thing, my big takeaway from this call today is that team approach and creating that culture of team. And I just really wanted to share that, because I think that when people feel isolated and alone and distant, that keeps them from getting the help that they need. And I just felt like I really needed to say that today.
No, appreciate that, Denice. Thank you. And then Maria, so what positive changes in the way the F&B industry addresses, let's start that over again. What positive changes in the way the F&B industry addresses mental health have you seen since you started with Cooks Who Care? So what changes have we made as an industry as a whole that could be a best practice to a lot of people on this call?
I think there's a couple things. First off, community, rallying together. Never has there been a time before that we've all actually helped one another and like proactively reached out. I know that even a lot of our organizations, including Chow, like we're part of a coalition for mental health, and there's so many others that are rallying together, like Best Served Podcast, Not 9 to 5, Clubhouse has conversations. Like I've never seen this, before. It was kind of like, we're surviving, we're growing, we have our empires, and that's it. And if you're in our community, great. If you're not, you're not. This is a different scenario. The organizations like PRLA, like helping everybody, building bridges to connect us all to resources because we're often under-resourced. And another thing that I've really seen is since Anthony Bourdain's passing, I think we're more aware. We may not know what to do yet, which is a lot of the resources that are being shared in the tips here. We may not know how to act, but we're more aware to go, I need to be more cognizant of this. I can build team opportunities. I can build self check-ins. I can check in with the team more than just our stand-up meeting and just say like, hey guys, we got to go do this. And here's the next thing. And here's something else you got to do. We can say, how are you doing? Are you all right? You okay? It's a totally different conversation I feel that we're having that we were not having before. And just making it conversational, just like this, Brian, today, this is the start. We have to keep talking about it and listen to experts of everyone who's on this panel. Thank you so much for sharing all those great resources and keep moving. So thank you.
Thank you, Maria. So I'm a huge fan of writing little buzzwords down for those who have ever been on these calls. It's a great lesson. What I heard today, stress is real. We're not the expert, but we do need to know where to find them, know the warning signs, and more importantly, pay attention. Be careful trying to help without knowing how to help. That's a big deal. For the example, take some time off. Encourage ways to handle stress at work. Dehydration is a thing. I agree. And the wrong food. Calm zones, stigma, fear, shame, burnout, and that's burnout, finances, closing of restaurants, overall health burnout, no insurance, and no accessibility to healthcare was the last one. People ignored me and my cry for help. We must find the resources. Toxic people helping toxic people, that's a problem. Do we know where our resources are? Taking the pressure, I love this one, taking the pressure off the restaurant and getting them resources, because we're restaurant people. I'm not a psychiatrist, all right? Do you know your resources? And then all of a sudden you flip the coin. Compassion and empathy go a long way. Get to know your people and really know what they need. And guess what, guys? It's okay to tell someone what they need. Trust me, people don't know. Find the resources, ask direct questions. And I love that. Are you going to kill yourself? You talk about a hell of a direct question. I never thought to ever ask that. Culture shift, love that word. Being open to communication, and it's okay to talk about it. And then community and support for each other. Real quick, and then I'm going to throw this over to Zach, I think. But really, guys, it reminds me of a story where the guy was trapped in a hole, screaming for help. His dentist walks by and says, I see you. Here's my office hours. I'll help you tomorrow. Come on in. That didn't help me at all. My vet walks by. Here's my office hours. You give me a call and we'll help. That doesn't help me. My accountant does the same thing. So all of a sudden, my friend walks by and jumps in the hole. And I said, you idiot. Now we're both stuck in this hole. And he says, but I've been here before. I know the way out. Follow me. That's how we help people. You get in the hole with them and guide them out of that hole, and not just throw policy, procedures, pamphlets, and things like that. You literally hold their hand to get through it. So I end this one simple, you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. All right, so focus on this great topic. Thank you for all the panelists, and thank you for allowing me to be here to do this today. I will turn this over to you guys. Thank you.